We just finished an article for Golf Digest that's entitled "The 5 Worst Things Amateur Golfers Give for Advice." I think that's close enough, but that's about how the title goes. So amateur golfers all the time have all sorts of advice for their friends. Typically they shoot somewhere in the 80s or 90s, so I would be really cautious about anyone who's giving you advice who can't shoot something near par anyway. That goes for teachers as well. If they're not really good at golf, there's probably something that they're missing, but that topic is for another day anyway. So some of the advice I've heard amateurs give, and then my friends who are also in the article that wrote some of this, Mike Jacobs, Sean Webb, Chris Como's in there as well, that we all have heard tons of advice from amateur golfers because that's what's convenient and easy for you to find. So when you're on the driving range with one of your buddies and they watch you hit and they tell you, man, you swung too fast, I'd outrightly object on that piece of advice, but that's typically how this starts going. Other ones that we hear all the time are you just need to release it better. That's a silly piece of advice for so many reasons, and that's for another day too. But other ones I've heard are hold the club like a baby bird. I have no idea how that works. I would recommend the exact same piece of advice, but the antithesis of that really, that you should be holding the club like a baby bird that you want to pop its head off, like that tight. That's really a better way to play. Same story for another day, but that's why we do content like this. We can talk about all sorts of topics that way. To get into that article, though, one thing I mentioned in there was you're holding the club too tight was a problem I hear a lot of students tell their friends, or a lot of their friends tell other students. That's a bad piece of advice. You're swinging too fast is silly. Go tell Brooks Koepka or Dustin Johnson who drive the ball 350 yards routinely that they're swinging too fast, and they actually swing twice as fast as the average amateur that we see. I mean, all these are just a host of problems, and they're silly. They really are silly, but that's where golf's at. It's very challenging to find good advice in books or DVDs, so it's hard for people to really learn, which is why we make videos like this and produce content on our website and our YouTube page so you can follow along. Maybe the most flawed piece of advice, though, is keep your head down. So check out the screen here that we're looking at, and I've got 2 swings. The one on the left, this is going to be what I would represent as a bad swing. Draw a very crazy looking B with some arrows, and then this one over here, this is the one you're trying to copy. We'll go with a crazy looking G. On the downswing, I've got shoulder bend. So that's the amount that I can bend myself forward or backward. We've written about that at length. There's a Golf Digest article that we did last year that we'll put a link into here. And then my friend Patrick has a video that will also link into this if you want to even hear more about it. But check out how I'm moving. I start at 30 degrees bent forward. On the way down of the swing where I'm trying to keep my head down, you can see I'm almost down to impact. 1 frame, 2 frames before I hit. And my shoulder bend is actually increasing, meaning I'm lowering myself to the ground. Now, the best golfers in the world start to bend backward much sooner than I did. Ultimately, I hit with 46 degrees forward. That shoulder sensor with the best golfers is about 31 degrees forward here. Then through the ball, all the way up until my right arm is parallel to the ground, that sensor that I'm wearing on my back that you can see right up here should continue to move backward like it has, but it moved way too slowly. Went from 46 or 40-ish at impact all the way to 20 forward here. So I've moved it backward some, but not nearly enough. The best players in the game at this point in time are about 15 degrees backward at this point. Man, that's a terrible 5, isn't it? Getting there. Okay, 15 back, not 20 forward. Let's move through on this one. So I started at 30 degrees, exactly the same point. Notice in here I'm at 43 on these frames, and it's not really moving forward or backward. This is the point in time where you need to start moving that sensor backward. Even I'm a couple frames late. I get to 41, 40 at impact, and then check this out. Through the ball, and as I continue on, when my right arm is parallel to the ground, I'm about 11 degrees backward here, which is 31 degrees different than the bad swing that we made. Trying to keep your head down. The idea of keep your head down, stare at the ball this far into the swing is a total farce. And then if I keep going on my good swing all the way into the follow through, my shoulders are bent backward 41 degrees. It looks like how you'd see a lot of people on the PGA Tour. And then the same swing where your buddies are telling you, or hopefully you're not telling them, keep your head down. The most that my shoulders actually got bent backwards were 0 degrees. So those pictures are radically different. This is a bad golfer on the left. This is what you see on the PGA Tour week in and week out, especially on the weekends who are leading the tournament. So the way you can really help yourself or your friends or ignore bad advice is to recognize that the way you would actually start by helping yourself or helping anyone else is to watch where the balls go, find some pattern on where the shots are hit, and then use that to help make a decision. So when someone's struggling, it's not because they're keeping their head down. That's silly. Where did the shot go actually is a good representation of that. So in the article I mentioned if someone's hitting shots to the left or pulling, that means when they hit, the face angle is too close to the target, and that's the beginning of understanding where to begin. That doesn't mean you need to just necessarily open the face up, but that's where your next piece of advice should go. There's a host of bad advice out there, whether it's from your friends or golf instructors who don't get to measure swings and really compare them like what we just did here. Anyone at GOLFTEC can do this really well. So again, if your friends are saying you swing too fast, you grip the club too tight, your tempo's bad, your balance looks off, or you have a golf instructor even go a little bit further than that who can't tell you in a measurable way exactly what's right or wrong with your game, or they go even into some crazier pieces like I hear golf instructors and friends who are friends of students who make a swing and the coach or the student or the friend will make a sound effect with their mouth, like whoosh or boom is one of my favorite ones. If your coach is moving you around and saying boom, you are in the wrong place for golf lessons, I promise you. So the place to go, a great place to find the answers and measure your swing to figure out what's right or wrong in your game, GOLFTEC. Find a coach near you.